Okay, why don't you start by telling us about when you first visit to Granite City or to the camp meeting, when you were young preachers, or I don't know what year that would have been, or do you remember just about what year?
Mom would remember the year.
Well, you was single when you came.
Well, we might as well pick up, I guess, when you and I was married, because those are fond memories. Of course, I knew Brother Cook and all of us preachers like Brother Collins and Brother Green and William Markham and Brother Harold Esri. We was all raised on the camp meeting ground with Brother Cook. Brother Cook was a great man of God. He met me going.
What was he like?
He was a great builder, a great builder. He could really pack a church out with people. I was walking across the campground on my way to pray. I was single then. And he caught me and he said, "Where are you going, Brother Galiher?" And I said, "I'm going over to the old tabernacle to pray, Brother Cook." He said, "When you get done, take this broom and sweep it out." And that's the kind of man that Brother Cook was. He could actually take care of great preachers and command a camp.
Yeah, yeah. So what year do you think that was when that was going on? Were you still single?
I'd say, I guess I went to the campground there when I was 18 or 19, and I'm 84.
Wow.
And so...
No, I believe you'd have been 21.
Was I?
Yeah, because you came to Elko at 21 and then you learned about Granite.
And of course we went to campground, we went to the camp meeting all the time.
Yeah.
And then of course my fond memories was, we was married, Bessie and I, in 59. And then our 3 children, and they just little tots. Ruth and all of them are just little babies, and we slept many a year in them old cabins there on the campground and worked in the kitchen. We had the old kitchen then, and Brother George Bram, his father and mother, they were a great
father-in-law, yeah.
A worker in that old kitchen.
Yeah.
The in-laws.
In-laws. And so...
Now, did you know, like, names that I've heard since I was a kid, you know, like Brother Pankey?
Brother Pankey.
Remember those?
Brother Pankey was one of my favorite preachers. He drove an old Coupe Nash. And he was from Cape Girardeau.
Yeah.
Brother Guy Walsh.
And he pastored...
No, I don't remember Guy Walsh.
He preached the camp.
Brother Guy Walsh.
He preached the camp?
Yes.
Okay.
And then Brother Pankey was from Cape Girardeau.
Yeah.
But Brother Carter was on the board, and Brother Leo Robinson.
Brother Whitstone.
And Brother Whitstone. Oh, there was great men of God.
Yeah.
Who turned that old swamp into a camp meeting.
Yeah.
It was a swamp.
Now, what about, there was a preacher out of Flora, Illinois. What was, and...
Brother Corey and Brother Kirby.
Brother Bill Corey.
Brother Kirby.
And Brother Curtis. Kirby. They all come to camp meeting. They was old timers.
Then I remember Brother Altenberger.
Brother Altenberger.
And Brother McClellan.
Brother McClellan.
Brother McClellan.
My dad, Brother Mayberry.
Yeah, Brother
he
Mayberry,
came all the time.
And they all come from Mobile, and they come from all the way down through the Mobile area in the States. And they always laughed at me when I told them, I said, "Now, you're coming up north now to the camp meeting. You want to bring an electric fan and bring lots of cover." They didn't quite understand that, but when they got up here, they found out that it was hot and then it got cold.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's talk about when you first came to Granite City and how the call came, and you was at Fairfield at the time, right? Pastoring at
yes.
Fairfield.
We started the church at Fairfield, and that's where Ruth was born. and that's where Stephen was born. How old was Dwayne, Mom?
He was 2 when we went there.
When he was 2 years old when we went to Fairfield. And we was there right at 10 years in my hometown, and my church grew out of proportion. And I started a bus ministry with one bus in Fairfield.
Yeah.
And then Brother Brand, a great jewel. He was a great jewel at Bethel Chapel, built the new church. And we'd all come to Thanksgiving here, and the platform would be full of preachers.
Yeah.
And so he resigned. And I went to Brother Milton's church at Evansville, and I asked Brother Milton, I said, who do you think will become the next pastor of Bethel Chapel? And Brother Milton said, well, L.L. Collins. I said, I think so too. Because Brother Cook raised him here in the church, and he married in the church. So I went home and I was praying before I went to bed, and the Lord said, you're going to be the next pastor. And I jumped up. I jumped up. I'm from Oaks Edition, Curry Patch. Who knew me?
Yeah.
And I married Bessie from Happy Hollow, you know.
Yeah.
We was nobody. And of course we did build the church at Fairfield, and it grew. And God said, you're going to be the next pastor. And so I ran into the bedroom and I said, Mom, they're going to call us to Bethel. And the telephone rang, and it was George. And George said, we're sitting around the table here. He was on the board. And he said, we sitting around the table there among all the board members, and they brought your name up. And I said, well, I knew you was going to call me. He said, you did? I said, yeah. I really felt like the Lord told me I was going to come and try out for the church.
Yeah.
So they asked me to come, me and Mom. And before we come, I resigned my church and had Reverend Brand to preach for me. And he come and ate dinner with me, and I said, Brother Brand, my house is sold and my church I've resigned, and we're going to go to Bethel. That's before I even went. And Brother Brand said, now, you know, you really probably should wait till, you know, the voting. I said, well, I'm going to be an evangelist, or I'm going to be a pastor. So my house was gone, the church was gone, and me and Mom come to Bethel, and they liked us, and I got, what, 95%?
I think so.
95%.
Wow. That's
And
great.
so Ruth was 6 years old. How old was the other children?
Steve was 9, Dwayne was 11.
So Ruth was 6, so that would have been in 71?
72.
72.
February of
okay.
72.
February of 72.
I think I was 36 years old.
37. And I was
37?
I was 31.
And
Wow.
Brother Brand had just built the brand new church and left and gave it to me.
Yeah. Wow.
I could not believe that me being from Oaks Edition, Curry Patch, that I was voted into a big church like Bethel Chapel.
Well, while you was here, the few things that took place, you did a number of things, and I know you burnt the mortgage. On
We burnt the
building,
mortgage.
right? And I remember that because I was
And
a teenager, and was
Bill
it $27,000 or something like that?
Yeah, it was all paid off.
Paid it off.
And Brother Ferguson got happy and run all around the church that
They
night
had Jericho March, didn't they?
at a Jericho March. I think we started the first bus ministry in Granite. Bill Brim would know that. And then we tore down the old kitchen, and we went across the creek and cleared out that wilderness. It was all a swamp,
Yeah, I remember that.
and cleaned it all out and built a brand new kitchen back there with trailer parks.
Yeah.
And then we stayed here 14 years.
Not quite, it's over 13.
Yeah, just over 13.
We left in
And-
May of 85.
It was the best years of our life, greatest move that I ever made in my ministry to raise my children at Bethel Chapel. The high points of that 15 years was that Brother George Brim was my youth director.
Yeah.
And I would never let him resign. And we had a basement full of young people, and I have yet cannot remember how many that was counted that come out of there preachers.
Yes.
A gob of preachers.
Right.
And then a lot of the young ladies become preachers' wives
Right.
and pastor in churches.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest highlights was that Brother Wolf was the contractor and coming to church, and he was my adult teacher. And I got preaching on the Holy Ghost several weeks. And Brother Wolf got the Holy Ghost. Was he 90?
85 when he got it.
85. Wow. Wow.
And Brother Wolf and Bethel Chapel, we started a great togetherness,
Yeah.
and it was a family church. Brother Kenneth Brand left me a church, and it was full of people.
Yeah.
I had never preached to a large congregation like that before, and so we stayed 13 years or something.
Yeah.
But I'd like to say that we left Brother Bell with a new fellowship hall under roof,
Yeah.
and he finished it.
Right.
But this was a great church, and I was able to visit Brother Cook. He was still alive, and I would visit him, and he said, "Where you been today?" And I said, "I went to Belleville to visit the sick." He said, how did you go? And I said, "Well," I told him, he said, "Oh, you went way out of the way." And he said, "Here is the way you should have went." And of course, it was the shortest way.
Yeah.
I got to minister at his death. He died while camp meeting's going on. And Brother Cook, I was one of the part that preached his funeral.
That was either the summer of 72 or summer of 73, I'm not sure.
Okay. So
The Bills-
shortly after you.
Not too long after.
The Bills would know.
Yeah.
And then that was the greatest highlight.
Yeah.
What did you think when you came to Granite City as pastor? Was that kind of a big deal
When
for
we
you?
first came, I was frightened.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to get up and say anything. I was used to small churches.
Yeah.
One of the men come up to me and said, "Sister Gallagher, are you afraid?" And I said, "Yeah, I am."
Yeah.
And he said, "Well, you don't need to be afraid." He said, "There's a lot of us," but he said, "We're just all from Dover, Tennessee and Southern Kentucky, and you
Yeah.
know, we just come up here and got jobs." Said, "We're just people."
Yeah. Yeah.
And that helped me.
Yeah.
After about 3 weeks, I got
Yeah.
acquainted. I had a hard time remembering people's names. You know, I'd have to ask somebody else who that lady is over there.
Yeah.
We finally learned everybody.
There was some good memories because I remember the church. I remember like numbers of Sunday school board of like 324 and things like that. I don't know if you remember, Brother Gallagher, what.
I think it went over 350. I think.
I think our top number was 347, but it was
Okay.
somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay.
But everybody worked hard.
I think that was.
Yeah.
A lot of the old timers that are gone now were bus captains, and
Yeah,
I went out on the route. It was new to me. I had that bus in Fairfield, and I went out on the route and went to every route to visit where all the bus captains went to visit. I went with them, and I walked into this house, and this lady come to the door in shorts, and I said, I'm a new preacher at Bethel Chapel, and I want you to come to church. Oh, she said, I'm a Baptist. And the little boy was hanging down on her shirt, and he pulled down and said, Mama, Baptist church? When did we ever go? And so I won that whole family,
yeah,
and they all
yeah,
come to church
yeah,
and made me a good man and woman and family.
yeah,
I've had great times at Bethel,
yeah,
great times,
yeah,
and I left it like Brother Brad left it.
yeah,
And Bethel Chapel is unique. A lot of music, good preaching, quality preachers, quality teachers, quality board members. You can't beat a church like Bethel Chapel.